How many of us want work-life balance? Yep, definitely. How many of us want to wake up feeling energized and ready for the day? Definitely. And how many of us want our hours to be filled with meaningful activities and meaningful work? Right? Yeah. So this is where I'm going to share with you some tried and tested best practices that can start to actually achieve all these. Well, welcome to this 1 hour that you have made for yourself. Okay. And I think that that is always the best testimony that, you invest in your own well-being. Okay. So let me ask you, what does well-being mean for you? You can either unmute or you can type it in chat. What does well-being mean for you? Yes, go ahead. Unmute and share with me. No right or wrong answers. Balance. Nice. Yeah. Happy and healthy. I really like that. Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts? Enough food. Yep. Rest, sleep, social life, staying positive. I love your contributions. If you look at the word well-being, for me, it is to be well. Okay, all right. And being well is in the different facets of our lives, be it the body, the mind, the spirit, just like what many of you have highlighted in chat. Okay. But how do we achieve this well-being, right? Every day we have daily stresses, we have demands, we have challenges. And although we might have good intention, sometimes we do get lost in the daily stress. Today, what's in store for us? We are going to talk about how do you react to stress? How do you manage the seed do get model? Right? And we're going to talk about the circle of concern versus the circle of influence. Another big best practice that really can transform your life is what we call the big rocks and weekly planning. And we're going to end off with the daily private victory. So I recommend that you have a blank piece of paper and a pen so that you can write down any aha moments, so that you can pen down any thoughts that you want to apply after today's webinar. Okay. So what are some of your daily stresses and challenges? Okay, what are they? Can some of you just unmute and share with me? Kelly, what would be some of your daily stresses or challenges, Kelly?
Balancing
Balancing. Okay, balancing what?
work and life,
Yeah.
and also health.
Okay. Work and life. Not enough work, is it for you, Kelly?
No.
Too much work? Okay, yes. How to have enough time for even your personal life, for family and friends. Okay, that's right. Okay. So for some of us, it's because of tight deadlines. Sometimes we are faced with demanding projects or challenging stakeholders, different types of personalities. Many of us, like what Kelly said, trying to have that balance between the work demands and home demands. So here, let me ask you in chat, can you just list down any other stresses that you are facing right now so that you become aware of what is pulling you, okay, from achieving what you want? Go ahead, please. Type it in chat. Urgent last minute requests. Yeah, I hate that, right? But it is part of work, isn't it? What else? Commuting. Oh, vendor performance issue. All right. Not enough time. Nobody wrote not enough money, huh? What else? What other stresses or challenges do you face? Okay. Well, for some of us, the last 2 years working from home has been rather stressful because we've got to manage maybe our elderly parents with the young kids, right? So, how do you react when you're under stress? Because stress is something that is prevalent in our lives, but how do we react when we're under stress? Okay. You notice that some people, they are very calm, they are very together. And some of us, oh my gosh, we're all over the place when we are faced with stress. So here, let me share with you this model that really got me into a different paradigm. Many of the time, when there is that stimulus, for example, that horrible email, that challenging client, okay, the underperforming vendor, that's the stimulus. Many of us tend to respond. But when I attended a workshop from Franklin Covey, I discovered this model here. Whenever there is that stimulus, please be aware there is this space where there is freedom to choose. How am I going to respond? Okay. So, knowing and being aware of this space that you actually have that pause button before you respond, it is so useful. It is so meaningful. So, I'll give you an example. There was once when I got into a new position in the call center. I was a training manager of a call center that was 300 people strong. Okay. The first week that I was there, an operations manager wrote me a nasty email. He said, training has promised us all these training and nothing has been done. What are you going to do about it? And in my mind, I was like, hello, I'm only day 3 here. Okay? If my predecessor didn't carry through, why are you blaming me? Right? So I got very mad. And straight away, I wanted to go back to this stimulus and response mode and defend my position. But I told myself, okay, I have this freedom to choose. So I said, let's go for lunch. When I'm in the right mental space, then I would respond. Okay. So after lunch, I calmed down and I was thinking, how is this operations manager feeling? Well, definitely he wants to protect his people. Can you imagine call center? Clients call when they're not happy, right? They don't call to tell you that, oh, I'm so happy with your product. No. So when the agents cannot answer clients' calls, they get shouted at. So definitely the operations manager was under pressure. Right? So I wrote him an email. I can understand how you want to protect your staff, how you want your staff to be equipped to handle customer inquiries. Okay. I'm sorry that the training did not go through as promised. Can I meet you this afternoon to prioritize? Yeah. And guess what? In the next 10 minutes, he actually wrote me an email and he apologized. Okay. Oh, by the way, the first email, he CC'd the entire world. Okay. But the apology one, he just wrote to me and he said, sorry, Fiona. Yes, I am very frustrated. Okay. So we met and guess what? We became good colleagues. Okay. So I am so thankful that I chose this freedom to choose before I responded. Okay. So Stephen Covey, he says this, if you want small changes in your life, work on your attitude. But if you want big and primary changes, work on your paradigm. Okay. So what is the meaning of paradigm? Right? That is where changing how you see something will affect what you do. And what you do affects what you get. Okay, so this is the see, do, get model, right? How we see the world, our paradigms will affect what we do, our daily practice. And what we do will result in the results we get. So ask yourself, are you adopting the right paradigm or do you need to change your paradigm? Okay. So this is where we are going to watch this video where Stephen Covey is going to talk about carry your own weather. And I want you to see what carrying your own weather means for you. Okay? Enjoy this.
Monday morning, and it's raining. A gray, melancholy day. On a day like this, maybe we can be excused for feeling gray and melancholy ourselves. We get into a mood, and the whole day seems to go badly. Don't you feel better when the weather outside is great? But what if you could carry your own weather within you? What about the social world we live in? Don't you feel better when you're treated better? That's being reactive to what we could call the social weather, the social culture. When you carry your weather with you, you can choose to be consistent regardless of how people treat you. That's what it means to be proactive. Being reactive is the opposite of being proactive, not taking responsibility for our own life. You always see yourself as a victim of the weather, of your moods, of someone who has it in for you. Habit 1 is based on the principle that your life is the result of your own decisions, not your conditions, not what's happening around you. That's why habit 1 is so foundational, so basic. Unless you practice habit 1, you can never practice the other habits of highly effective people. Years ago, I was doing research in a library in Hawaii. While thumbing through a book, I came across an idea that changed my whole outlook. The author said something like this: between what happens to us, that is the stimulus, and our response is a space. In that space lies our power and our freedom to choose our response. And in those choices lie our growth and our happiness. This insight sunk deep into my heart. Even in the midst of challenging circumstances, we have this exhilarating power to choose how we will respond. For instance, the great Viktor Frankl, the Jewish Austrian psychiatrist imprisoned in the death camps of Nazi Germany during World War II, experienced unbelievable indignities and tortures. He was raised to believe that you are basically a product of your childhood. But while he was in the death camp, he began to observe some very interesting things. Different people reacted differently to the same circumstances. He himself experienced terrible things. Some of his own loved ones were killed. One day they stripped him, put him under lights, and performed experiments upon his body. At that lowest possible point, he discovered what he called the last human freedom, the power to choose your own response to any condition, to anything that happens to you. During his darkest moments, Frankl would visualize himself lecturing to his students in Austria following his release. He pictured himself teaching them about the very experiences he was having then. He came to believe that the most basic human capability of all is that between stimulus and response, man has the freedom to choose. Frankl later determined the thing that enabled survival in the death camps was not necessarily intelligence or survival skills, but a sense of purpose, a contribution yet to be made. This became the basis for his brilliant autobiography, Man's Search for Meaning. It's not what people do to us that hurts us. It's our chosen response to what they do that hurts us. As Gandhi put it, they cannot take away our self-respect if we do not give it to them. We must simply never build our emotional life around the weaknesses of other people. Otherwise, we give them permission to continue to mess up our lives. We give our future away. Several years ago, I was making a presentation on this subject of proactivity, and a woman stood up in the middle of my speech and started to give a speech on her own, spontaneously. She was filled with explosive learning and excitement. You could see it in her eyes, her gestures, her body language. And then she sensed the inappropriateness of what she was doing. She sat back down. I could hardly wait until the break to talk to her. What happened to you? I asked. She shared her story. She said, I'm the full-time nurse to an extremely miserable man. He doesn't even acknowledge me, let alone show me any form of appreciation. She went on to explain that this elderly man, entrusted to her care, was absolutely miserable and took his misery out on her. She was becoming more and more depressed and hated the thought of going to work each day and facing this irritable man. All of the other nurses felt the same way. They talked even of his demise, wished for it, hoped for it, while they were taking care of him. Then she said something to me. For you to stand up there and suggest that I am choosing to be miserable was almost too much. But then, listening to you, I suddenly realized that I do choose to be miserable. Before, I believed I didn't choose it. He made me. But then I realized how dependent I am. I'd given my power over myself to him and his miserable behavior. As I thought about what you were saying, she said, I realized I had the power to choose and felt like I had been let out of prison. That's why I stood up. I could not contain myself. I just can't tell you what that means. This feeling of freedom is almost overwhelming. We have the power and the freedom to choose, to create our own weather each day. As Fulton J. Sheen once said, each of us makes his own weather, determines the color of the skies in the emotional universe which he inhabits.
So, what are some of your takeaways? I'd love to hear from you. You can unmute and share. Pamela, what about you, Pamela? What are your thoughts about that video? You want to use the unmute?
I thought I should read that book again.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yes, that is a good work. That is a good book. Yeah, Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah. Yes, Pamela, you about to say something?
Oh, it caught me by surprise, but I think that it's inspiring, and I agree with what he shared. In terms of you are in charge of your own weather every day. Importantly, we have to make a choice, like what Bernard has just indicated. Yes, thanks, Bernard.
Yeah, we have that choice, right, Pamela? Thank you. You know, whenever we're faced with a difficult project, yeah, you have that choice to see it as, you know, yeah, why? Yeah, bad luck. I have that kind of project, so challenging. Yeah. Or you can see it, wow, this is a growth opportunity for me, right? So different people would view that same situation very differently. Yeah. How do you carry your own weather? Right? Okay. Waisin, can you unmute? I like what you just typed in chat. Can you elaborate, Waisin?
I just feel that we shouldn't, people may be negative about things, we just have to keep our own positivity. I think like even the jobs we do, people may not think of us as doing much for them, but we know that we are doing the right thing. We are trying to improve the healthcare around us.
That's right. That's right. I like that perspective. Yes. There are some people, misery loves company, right? And they want to drag you in their misery. So yes, stay positive. You have that choice. Okay, thank you very much. What about Joel? Love to hear from you, Joel. What are your thoughts on that video? Oh, Joel, sorry, you're a bit soft. Not really, yeah. It's okay, you can type it in chat. Yeah, okay. What about Chris Ong? Chris, what are your thoughts? Or anybody else? Yeah,
Hey,
Chris.
Fiona. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a very timely video to give us to sort of remind us. I think subconsciously all of us know that, right? That we shouldn't let things get to us and all that. But sometimes we just need reminders of how to see the bright side. And I think this goes with work as well as our personal life, family, and all that. So yeah, I think it's very timely. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing your perspective. I do like what you just shared. Okay. And this is where, if we look at it, fun is one of our core values, right? In IHiS. And I like that definition of what fun means. It means to be fully present, okay, to not feel overwhelmed, right? So, how do we actually manage our well being when the daily stresses are upon us? Benjamin Franklin says this: while we may not be able to control all that happens to us, we can control what happens inside us. Okay, and this is where I would like to share with you the circle of concern versus the circle of influence. So, here, definitely, we would be worried, we would be concerned. That's human nature. But if we continue to just place our efforts and our energy on a worry area, guess what? It's not going to do us any good, right? So instead, with that energy and time and effort, focus on that inner circle called the circle of influence. Okay? Because proactive people will start thinking, if I'm faced with this challenge, what is it I can do? Yeah. Right. However, when we get sucked into that circle of concern, some of us, that worrying becomes even larger and all consuming. Right. So here you have two choices. You can just worry, 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 and get the circle of concern to grow bigger, or you can start to expand that circle of influence. So this is where, please get your pen and pencil ready and your paper. Okay. I would like you to identify a specific challenge that you're facing right now. Okay. And think about what are some of your concerns, acknowledge them. Okay. It's not going to go away, but I want you to just acknowledge them. But what I want you to focus on is what can you do to influence it? I'm going to give you two examples. First one, I have no control over my DNA. Let's say, because of hereditary things, I am diabetic. Okay, I can't control that. But I can influence what I eat. Okay, right? Another example, if I have an upcoming major presentation, I might be concerned about what the client's reactions will be. Okay. But what I can focus on would be how I anticipate their questions, how I prepare my slides, maybe get some advice from my sponsor, my manager. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to take 2-3 minutes to really think about a major challenge you're facing right now and start to think about what is it you can do to enhance that circle of influence. Okay, take 2-3 minutes, please. Just a few seconds more. And once you are ready, can you just type in chat? I don't need to know what that challenge you're facing right now, but it'll be lovely to hear what are some areas that you can start to do in that circle of influence. Okay, so once you're ready, type it in chat. And this model is something I use whenever I am faced with a challenge. Okay. It does help me mentally to acknowledge the concerns. Yep, I know it's there, but I can't do anything about it. So just stop worrying. Instead, what can I do to make things better? Okay. Yeah, block out time for yourself. Thank you, Daphne. Yeah, learn how to de-stress. I like that. Oh, Bernard, talking to your wife. That's good. Yeah, sometimes talking to a non-related third party can actually help you to relax, to have better perspective. Okay. Relax. Yeah. Anything else? Sometimes I do talk to a trusted colleague and I just get a different perspective. What would you do? Yeah. Mabel, thank you. See the good in it. Yeah. Adele, can you unmute and share? I like what you talked about. Focus on the fundamentals. What do you mean by fundamentals?
More like what is a must do rather than a good to have.
Ah, nice. Yeah, what is it that I must do? The must do versus the nice to have, right? I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. Yes. Okay. Good. Right. Some of us, we actually, if you notice, many of you are writing down activities that you can do to take your mind off the problem. Okay. And research has shown that I'm gonna just stop sharing, okay, because I want to just look at all of you. How many of you sometimes when you're having your bath or when you're walking to the station, you get wonderful ideas? Yep. Right? Why? It's because your brain has had time to relax and not just worry about that challenge. Yeah. So giving your brain that switch off time allows it to reframe. Yeah. And that's why sometimes in our sleep, we suddenly get up, oh, maybe I can do this. Or when you have that shower, because it is very cathartic to have water running over you, then you've got that wonderful idea. Okay, so all your techniques there actually are very good. Continue. Well done. Well done. Okay, so moving ahead. Okay, Stephen Covey also talks about what is it that actually helps him to have more balance in his life. Right. So if you were to ask me what single practice would do more to balance your life and increase your productivity than any other, it would be this. Plan your week each week before the week begins. Okay, so this is a system that has really transformed what I do with my time. Because in the beginning, many of you talked about not enough time, right? So here, how do we fill our hours with meaningful work? Right? So this is the 3-step system. 1, you connect with your mission, your roles and goals. What is important for you? Okay. Step 2, you schedule the big rocks. Okay. Big rocks are meaningful activities compared to pebbles, which would be just noise. Yeah. Many of us fill our day with all the little pebbles, okay, instead of the big rocks, right? And step 3, organize the rest. So Having this in mind, I would like you to try this out. Okay? Going back to your blank paper, ask yourself, if I were to divide my life, okay, into 5 to 7 important roles, okay, what would be the 5 to 7 that I want to focus on? So for example, Jennifer here, let's say she's a marketing director. Okay. She is also a parent and a spouse. At work, she's also a leadership trainee. Okay. In her free time, she is a soccer coach. And for herself, she is a runner. Okay. So these would be the 6 slices in her life that are important. Okay. So can you please take your piece of paper and start to map out 5 to 7 important roles. Have a mixture between work as well as personal. Go ahead. All right, once you have that 5 to 7 roles, okay, this is where step 2 comes in. And we actually have a handout for you that will be made available after today's webinar. All right. Step 2 talks about scheduling the big rocks. So what is the big rock question? What are the 1 or 2 most important things I can do in this role this week? So for example, going back to Jennifer, as a project manager, her big rocks this week would be quarterly check-ins with one. Okay. The second one, prepare a budget proposal for next project. So just ask yourself, what are the big rocks? Okay. For now, ignore the pebbles because there are going to be numerous pebbles in that role. But what is it that is most important for you in that role this week? I'm going to give you another personal role example as a parent. Okay, so focus now focus the role as a parent. Well, for her, it is scheduling a meeting with the teacher because she wants to talk about how her child is performing. Okay. And family dinners are important because so far, guess what? She's been missing dinners with her family because of work. So here she wants to be present to eat with her family. Okay, right? So this is where your big rocks come in. So please take a moment, ask yourself, what are those 1 or 2 most important things that you can do in this role this week? Okay, I'll be quiet and I'll give you 2-3 minutes. For today, you don't have to fill up for every role. Maybe try out 1 work role and 1 personal role so that you have that memory muscle. After today's webinar, you can go ahead and fill up your 5 to 7 roles that you have identified. Okay. All right. Can I get a few of you to type in chat? What is the role you have in mind, and what is the big rock for you in that role? Go ahead. Any of you want to share? You can share verbally also. If not, write it in the chat. Thank you, Mabel. Marianne, thank you. Yes. I really like the part that you put listen to her. That is so necessary, isn't it? Sometimes we might be physically with our child, but guess what? When they talk, we
Yeah.
are focused elsewhere.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah. So Marianne, how do you think you can actually just do that conscious listening?
Really turn off the phone and really just spend the day with her and not looking on my phone and answering emails.
I love that. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, because sometimes, right, you just say, yeah, I'm listening, but you're not really there.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. And Helen, I like what you wrote as well. Yeah. Okay. So why did you pick walking, Helen?
She don't like to go out, like to spend time on IT device, so better to bring her to a natural platform.
Very nice. Do what your child likes, not what you like. Okay. So that is another thing I want to highlight. When you're doing the big rocks, focus on activities that are meaningful for that person. Yeah. So for example, I'm a daughter. I must ask myself, okay, what is it my mom appreciates? So it could be accompany her to the market. Okay, I don't like going to the market, but my mom likes. So the big rock would be for that person. So thank you, Helen, for bringing that point up. Well done. Yeah. Thanks, Joel. What about the rest of you? Okay. And I highly recommend that you try out a few roles, because after this, you can always go back and revisit this. Okay. So after we have identified those big rocks, we put it in our calendar. So this would take priority first. Right? And after that, then we organize the rest. So the pebbles can come after. Yeah. So the moment I started doing this kind of big rock planning, oh my gosh, I felt that my time was spent in meaningful ways. Okay. How many of us sometimes after a busy day, we have this thought, today was so busy and yet I didn't achieve much. Versus some days, wow, today was so busy, I accomplished so much, right? Okay. So if you compare those days, ask yourself, what were the hours filled with? Was it filled with meaningful work, or was it filled with just pebbles? Right? So this is where, after doing the big rock planning, I realized that, the pebbles, even though I missed some of it, it didn't really matter because it was just pebbles. Okay. But my big rocks made a huge impact at work as well as in my personal life. Okay. So enjoy this video, which talks about weekly planning. Okay. And I recommend that whatever aha moments you have, take note of it.
Many of us live our lives hour to hour, day to day, focusing only on the immediate threat or passing impulse. So consumed with reacting to today that we neglect to even consider, let alone see, the big picture. The big picture is what's ultimately important: our mission, our vision, and our quadrant 2 priorities. But if we do not act on what's important, we end up neglecting the very details that enable us to achieve our goals. So how do we stay focused day to day without losing sight of the big picture? Between our big picture thinking and the demands of the here and now, there is a logical space that we must focus on: the week. The week represents a complete patch in the fabric of life. There are work days, evenings, and the weekend. It is close enough to be highly relevant, but distant enough to provide context and perspective. The most important thing you can do to balance your life and increase your productivity is to take the time to plan your week before the week begins. Take 30 minutes alone in a quiet place and go through these 3 steps. First, connect with your mission, roles, and goals. Roles come from your mission and represent your key relationships and areas of responsibility. You may have the role of being a sales manager, a family member, a friend, or a community volunteer. And don't forget to take care of yourself, to sharpen your own soul. Organizing your life around the roles you play will help you maintain balance and focus. Second, schedule the big rocks. Begin by asking the big rocks question. What are the 1 or 2 most important things I can do in this role this week? For instance, it might be to complete the budget. It might be to help a child resolve a problem, or to attend a conference where you will learn new ideas you need for your job. Schedule these big rocks onto your week first. Finally, organize the rest and schedule your other activities around the big rocks. With the right process for weekly planning, you can organize and execute every week of your life around your deepest quadrant 2 priorities. You will spend your time on those things that matter most, without losing that big picture perspective that makes your life so rich and meaningful.
Okay, so here, when we talk about investing in our well-being, we actually want to ensure that how we spend our time is meaningful, right? So what are your hours filled with? Are you happy with how you're spending your time now? Many of us, we are so busy, with the busyness that in the end, we ask ourselves, what did I achieve, right? So don't be like that hamster running round and round and round. Where are you going? And we all have to ask ourselves, how and who are important in our lives? So that's why, I put together this whole deck for you to talk about, what are some of the big roles that are meaningful for you? And I would like you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, right? If you have identified maybe 5 to 7 roles, you can give yourself a rating, 10 being perfect, and 1 being really, really sucky at that. Yeah. And this is where we need to ask ourselves, are we actually fulfilling that role to the best of our abilities? Right? Okay. So many of us, we might be doing very well in certain roles, we might be neglecting certain roles. Isn't that true? Right? So how do we have this balance? Right? So can I ask all of you, which roles do you think that you are actually very happy with? Which roles are you maybe rating yourself 7, 8, or above? Yes, Tracy, you have a question here. Tracy, would you like to just unmute? I'd like to get a bit more insight into your question.
Hi.
Hi.
Just thinking of what you share with us, like how to actually deal with all those big rocks that is out of your control at that time, or rocks that you actually procrastinate that you don't know which to face it or which to handle it. So how do you do it in terms of when you're scheduling all these rocks that actually is, you know that it's big rocks, but it's just that sometimes it's really hard to deal with at that moment of time.
I totally get you. Okay. Okay. So procrastination is another big topic. Can I ask you, do you notice when you procrastinate?
Totally, yes.
Okay. So when do you procrastinate? Is it when it is too big that you don't know where to start?
Sometimes your laziness get over you.
Ah, okay.
So that you know that is important.
Right. Thank you for your honesty, Tracy, talking about laziness. Yes.
Just
I'm sure.
that
Yeah,
somehow
because I'm
you
sure
choose
all
to
of
watch
us.
TV, Netflix instead of doing something.
Okay. So when I do get into my lazy mode, that's when I go back to that circle of concern and the circle of influence. Because guess what? If I procrastinate too much, what is going to happen when I'm nearing my deadline? Yeah.
You feel more panic.
I panic, I can't get enough of sleep, right? And I don't like feeling so stressed. Yeah. So when I remember those times where, I couldn't get enough sleep and how grouchy I was, I tell myself, okay, just take baby steps. What is it I can do now? Yeah. So just remember when you're lazy or when you actually find that you have a momentous task in front of you, break it down, chunk it. Yeah. And I start with things I enjoy doing first, the easy bits first, which then leads to the next step and then the next step. Yeah. Any of you here have other best practices that you'd like to share with Tracy? Because I think her question is something many of us are faced with. Yeah. Any of you? Jenna, what do you do, Jenna, when you find that, that big rock is so huge or you find yourself procrastinating? Pamela, I like that. Yeah. Handle the low-hanging fruits first. What about you, Jenna? What do you do?
Well, you can't just avoid it, but I think I would just give it a thought uh, of the details, how to approach the matter. There will be a solution. It's whether which one you would want to go with it. Yeah.
Yeah, explore your options. I like that, Jenna. Yeah, you can do a listing. What can I do now? And then you do option 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Okay. Tekun talked about the 80-20 rule. Yes. Sometimes that 20% that you do covers the 80%, and you feel so good after that. Okay. Yeah. Mabel also has very sound advice. Get help from peers. You don't have to do this alone. Why not? Right? So that's where our teamwork comes in. Because sometimes when we are stuck, we might go to somebody where that is their area of forte and we get thoughts from them. Yeah. Right. So this is where many of us, have to actually see how we operate and whether that is serving us or not. Okay. Right. Yeah, I do agree. And after you've gone through that, you feel really good and accomplished. Okay. Well done. So thank you. Any other questions? Because this sounds easy, but knowing and doing, very different. Okay. All right. We know all of this, but why are we not doing it? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Then I will move on to the next bit. So just remember the 3-step process. Ask yourself, what are my important roles? Okay. And schedule the big rocks for the week. and then organize the rest. So when should you do big rock planning? Well, start on a Saturday or Sunday so that when the week begins, you are all set. Okay. I usually choose somewhere quiet where I won't get interrupted and put aside anything from 15 minutes to half an hour. Okay. And once you are done for that week, you feel so settled. Your mind is actually prepared for that week. Okay. Right? So it does help the mind to just, okay, yeah, this is what I am going to do this week. Okay. And you know it's meaningful activities. So coming from the week, we now narrow into the day. Okay. And this is where in 7 habits, the 7th habit talks about sharpening your saw. Right? What do you understand by the term sharpening your saw? What does it mean for you? Anybody? What does sharpening the saw mean? Improve ourselves. Yes, yes. The spirit of Kaizen, always getting better. Yep, to be more skillful. Exactly. Okay, right. If we're good now and we remain complacent, guess what? We're going to fall back. Yeah, that's self-learning. Exactly. All right. So here, let's watch the
Life can be tough. It can test us, it can stretch us, even push us to our breaking point and sometimes beyond. With all of the demands that we have to juggle, it is easy to become imbalanced, stressed out, or to even feel empty inside. And if we don't take the time every day for renewal, we simply won't have the capacity. We won't have the strength or the energy or the insight to deal with life's challenges. Trying to live without renewing ourselves each day is like trying to cut a piece of wood with a dull saw. You can't do it. To gain the power you need to face life's challenges, you must make time each day to sharpen the saw. Habit 7 surrounds all the other habits because, simply put, it's the habit that makes all the other habits possible. It's about preserving and enhancing the single greatest asset you have, you. It means regularly renewing and strengthening the 4 key dimensions of your life: your body, your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Let's start with the body. Body represents our physical energy and our capacity to do things. We can keep ourselves sharp in this area through regular exercise, through good nutrition, proper rest, and of course, finding time to relax. Mind represents our mental sharpness, our ability to think clearly and to make good decisions. We renew ourselves in this area through continuous learning, writing, reading, as well as planning and organizing, so our minds are not cluttered and we get very clear on what needs to get done. Heart represents the quality of our relationships. We can sharpen our saw in this area by taking time for people, by taking time to build and to strengthen and to sometimes repair our most important relationships. In other words, by making daily deposits into the emotional bank accounts of other people. And finally, spirit. Spirit represents that inner self that exists far beneath the surface of your everyday self. It represents your center, your deepest convictions and your values, your source of purpose and meaning. We can renew ourselves in this area in many ways, such as spending time in nature or meditation, listening to inspiring music, thinking deeply on our mission and our values, religious worship, or meaningful service. Sharpening the saw each day in the physical, the mental, the social, and the spiritual dimensions is a practice we call the daily private victory. I recently had an experience that tested my commitment to my own daily private victory. That morning, my alarm sounded. Usually I get up and exercise, plan, get ready for the day. But I was up late the night before and I was so tired. And I thought to myself, I don't have time today to sharpen the saw. But as I was lying there, I could hear my father's voice in the back of my head saying, like he always said, "Sean, have you ever been too busy driving to take time to get gas? So I got up and I went down to my basement. I exercised. Immediately after exercising, I sat on my couch in the basement and I read inspiring literature for a few minutes. I then took time to plan my day. I started by looking at my mission statement. And then I reviewed each of my roles and the key goals and things I wanted to accomplish for each role. I got really clear on the few things I had to get done that day. It gave me perspective. As I continued planning, I also realized that I needed to apologize to my wife for something I'd said the night before. So I finished my planning and I went back upstairs. The whole routine only took about 45 minutes. After getting ready for the day, I went to my wife and I apologized. It turned out I really needed to, and she let me know that. However, it made a huge difference in how we both felt as we started the day. And as I walked out the door for work, I felt refreshed. My most important relationships were in order, and I had a very clear view of the day ahead. As it turned out, my private victory that morning helped me in so many ways throughout the day. I had to make a number of very pivotal decisions that day, and I felt this great sense of wisdom and judgment to help me. But it could have gone the other way. I could have stayed in bed and rushed through the morning and missed the opportunity to invest in my own capability to live that day well. I highly recommend the simple practice of sharpening the saw by spending time every day having your own daily private victory. Find a routine and a time that works for you. It will affect every decision and every relationship. It will greatly improve the quality of every other hour of the day, including the depth and the restfulness of your sleep. And it will build the long-term physical, mental, and spiritual strength that we all need to handle these challenges in life. So commit now to winning your own daily private victory. Even when it's hard, even when you don't have time or don't feel like it, and even when you don't want to wake up, it will make all the difference.
Okay, that was Sean Covey, okay, Stephen Covey's son. So here in the handout that you will get, there would be 4 distinct areas. And for now, I would like you to use your piece of paper and pen and just ask yourself, okay, which area are you doing well? And which area do you want to improve? So don't forget, when we talk about body, it is about various activities, not only the eating. I know as Singaporeans, we love our food, okay, but it's also talking about nutrition. What kind of calories are you consuming? Okay. It's also about rest. We might get 7 hours of sleep, but is it good quality sleep? Right? Or our mind's so busy that although we get 7 hours of sleep, we still feel tired when we wake up. Okay. How are you managing your stress? Right? So this covers the body area. In terms of heart, it talks about relationships. Yeah. So here, are you investing in your key relationships? EBA stands for emotional bank account. Are we depositing positive actions to make the emotional bank account grow bigger? Or are we actually not doing anything and drawing deficits in our emotional bank account? Okay. Who have you been neglecting that's important in your life? Right? Coming to the mind, yeah. We might be very comfortable in our comfort zones, always reading up about the same thing. But the mind needs that variance, needs the different activities for new electrons to grow, for new connectivity. So for example, how many of us have wanted to pick up a hobby? Okay, but we say, no, I might not be good at it. Oh, no, I think it's so silly. Yeah, right. I don't have the time. Well, start. Don't wait until you retire. Okay, right. So how are you expanding your mind? Are you learning a new language? Are you studying something that, is very different from what you normally study? Right? So how are you expanding your mind? And the fourth area is about spirit. So this is where, are you doing things that make your heart sing? So for example, it could be just quiet time for yourself. One of you wrote down meditation. For me, I love being in nature. Yeah. So I live in the East and I constantly go to the beach because that's my time to recharge. The negative ions from the sea actually help me to actually have that well-being. Okay. Some of us, charity work is important. And that's one of our core values, right? We actually want to give back to society and IHiS, right? So here, don't wait for the company to organize one. What are you doing to give back? Okay, right? So this is where what moves you. For some of us, it could be just music. So in chat, can I ask you, which one or two areas are you doing well in? Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Waisin. Okay. Yes, Waisin, work on the body bits. You're not alone. Okay, I'd like to hear from the rest of you, which one or two areas you're doing very well in right now. So for me, I consciously, okay, do different things to actually expand my mind. Yeah. And sometimes it is scary. Okay. So I've learned how to play the saxophone. Okay. At this age, I also learned how to do spin cycle. And when I go to spin cycle class, I'm the only auntie because everybody else is like, in their 20s. Okay. But I love it. Yeah. And it helps me with the body as well. Okay. Good. Continue to list down in chat. It's very, very, motivating when we see other colleagues writing, this is what I'm good at. Okay. Yes. Oh, Bambang, I like how you talked about expressing yourself through singing. Yeah. And guess what? If you don't have a good singing voice, sing in the car when you're alone, right? Sing in the shower. Why not? What about the rest of you? Yeah, Pamela, I do agree. The mind is a tough one to improve. Yeah. Okay. So this is where I would like to ask you, after today, which are one or two areas that you want to improve in? Okay. No point coming here, getting entertained, and then do nothing about it. Okay. Right? You will only start to actually take charge of your well-being when you make that decision, when you put in the effort to do something different. Okay? The saying goes, don't expect a different results doing the same thing, right? So here, I'm going to ask you, and we're going to do a poll, okay? Which areas do you want to focus on after today? You can pick more than one area. So we're going to launch the poll now. Okay. Go ahead, pick the two areas that you want to work on. So far, nobody has picked spirit. Okay. The rest of you, we are waiting for your reply. Can you see the poll?
I actually clicked spirit, but the thing just went off. The moment I click about to submit, then it just went off. So I'm not sure why. Yeah.
The poll disappeared.
Yeah. Okay. Now I submit. Okay. Okay. Now that.
Okay. Thanks for highlighting. Okay. We're going to close the poll in 5 seconds. So go ahead. It's anonymous. We don't know who picked what. Closing in 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to share the results. All right. So for our group, can you all see the poll results? Are the poll results visible? Okay, good. Yeah. So it looks like from our group of 100 plus people, the biggest areas would be the body and the mind. Okay, followed by the spirit and the heart. Well done. So after today, commit to yourself. Choose to invest in your own well-being. Okay. So we have come to the end of today's session, and I would like to leave you with this quote. Yeah. Our daily activities create our habits, and our habits start to shape our character and determine the quality of our life. Okay? You are the creator of your own life. So commit to investing in your own well-being because you deserve it. Yeah. Right? So we've come to the end, and if you do have any questions, you can always write to me. That's my email address over there. I'd love to connect with you.